Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. for the Institute for Dialectical Metarealism. I may get a call at any moment. Fair warning. I just joined or rejoined or something like that the Bund community, and I had to ask a few questions before I joined it to make sure that I was successful in doing that. Here's basically what I asked. Um, since I am from an Ashkenazi Jewish background on both sides of my family, my parents came to the U.S. at the turn of the 20th century. My father was born in 1919. My mother was born in 1925, and I was born in February of 1956. Yes, I just turned 68. How is that even possible? Life goes fast. Okay, anyway. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that even though I come from a Jewish family, I am not a practitioner of Judaism. I do not follow any of the um, major movements or even minor movements in Judaism. I'm not an Orthodox Jew. I am not a Hasidic Jew, which is basically a type of Orthodoxy. I am not a traditionalist Jew, sometimes called conservadox. I am not a conservative Jew, a Reform Jew, a Reconstructionist Jew, or a member of the Jewish Renewal Movement. I'm sure there are other branches of Judaism as well, but those are the ones that I am familiar with. And so the person I spoke with, who was one of the organizers of the Bund movement online, asked me a series of questions. The main question, at least what I think was the main question, is, do I believe in Tikkun HaOlam? Tikkun HaOlam is a Hebrew term. It means repairing the world or to repair the world. And I said, yes. In fact, in my current book, my book on eudaimonic utopia, I actually mention repairing the world. And so I guess, therefore, I believe in it, which I do. I mean, the world certainly needs a lot of repair right now. The other question was, am I cynical about the world? Meaning, basically, I guess, do I have a rather negative view of the state of the world right now? And again, my answer was yes. I think almost anybody who knows me would testify to that. I wish I were an optimist. I wish I had more of an optimistic view of the world. But looking at the world right now, looking at the dominance of Zionism, especially the dominance of Zionism among Jews, does make me rather cynical. I wish I could say otherwise, but it's difficult not to be cynical in a world filled with Zionism. I despise Zionism, as anybody who has listened to many of my podcasts will know. I think that Zionism is literally a plague upon humanity. Now, I can answer that from two perspectives. First, since I do not practice Judaism, let's say Orthodox Judaism, traditionalist Judaism, or conservative Judaism, I do not believe that there will be a Messiah in the future. Now, whether I believe that a Messiah has already come, that is a question I will not address, at least not now, because I think that would be an inappropriate subject to discuss in this podcast. But do I believe that there will be a Messiah in the future? The answer to that is clearly no. So that basically puts me out of that territory. Second question, related to that, refers to Reform Judaism, Reconstructionist Judaism, and the Jewish Renewal Movement. Those movements, or I should say members of those movements, generally believe that there will not be a Messiah, but rather a messianic age. Now, the fact that those movements reject the idea of a coming Messiah is in fact the major reason which led to my leaving Judaism, because I have always believed in the coming of a Messiah. On the other hand, I am not what most people would call a practicing Jew. Namely, I am not Orthodox, I am not Hasidic, I am not traditionalist, and I am not conservative. I was bar mitzvahed, I believe, and I say I believe because I really don't know this with any degree of certainty, but I believe in a Reform Jewish Hebrew school. I believe that is true, although I might be wrong. And the Hebrew school I went to was Reform, I think. The community center or temple I was bar mitzvahed in was again Reform, I think. And I've never liked the idea that is held by those movements, again, conservative, Reform, Reconstructionist, and Jewish Renewal, of a messianic age. I have always wanted a Messiah. Why should I want an end to Revelation? That idea never appealed to me. For me, the point of being Jewish is a succession of prophets. That's what we see in the Tanakh, what Christians call the Old Testament. So that really kind of turned me off. Even Christianity, for that matter, and I've never been a Christian, would turn me off for a similar reason, because Christians likewise do not believe in a succession of prophets following Jesus. Now, some Christians do believe in a future Messiah, and some do not. So again, I get caught up in this quagmire. Whenever I try to resolve this issue, I cannot resolve it, and I have tried many times, but I have been unsuccessful each time I have attempted it. So I cannot be an Orthodox Jew, a Hasidic Jew, a conservative Jew, because I don't believe in practicing a kind of, I guess, literalistic Judaism, or I don't believe in the inerrancy of the Tanakh. I don't believe in Talmudic Judaism. If anything, I believe in an open Talmud or an open Torah, that the Tanakh should be continually subject to revision. And I still believe that. I believed it before. I believed it when I was a kid. And yet that is not found in conservative, Hasidic, or traditionalist Judaism at all. There's no concept of an open Tanakh or an open Talmud. So I was at a loss to figure out where I should go, or to put it in other words, where do I belong? Likewise, I kind of like Reconstructionist Judaism, as I've mentioned in this podcast before. The main thing I like is the definition of Judaism as an evolving Jewish civilization. That's a really nice idea. And I think that is accurate because there has never been a single Judaism. Judaism has actually been an evolving phenomenon, going back to the Tanakh, going to the Talmud, and going to the present day. Judaism has always changed. It has never remained stagnant. And I still believe that. And yet, if I were to accept that, meaning the Reconstructionist view of Judaism, or as it is officially called right now, the rising current of Judaism, if I were to accept that somehow Judaism is rising or ever rising, reconstructing, then I would also have to accept that there won't be a Messiah. So you see my problem. I was lost. I had nowhere to turn. I felt as though literally I was a person without a spiritual home. Now, I tried several times to find one. I tried various branches of Surat Shabd Yoga, especially as a kid, Ekankar, but that didn't really satisfy me either for a variety of reasons. One is this kind of, for lack of a better term, pseudo-tinnitus that is caused by the practice of Ekankar in some people, or Surat Shabd Yoga in some people. Namely, it gave me a constant buzzing in my ears, which was not a whole lot of fun. So then I thought, well, okay, maybe I can become a Sikh. I like Sikhism, or I thought I liked Sikhism. I respect Sikhism. Even now, although I am not a Sikh, I respect Sikhism. However, when the 10th Guru died, Sikhism started by Guru Nanak, and the 10th Guru died. He had no successor, no human successor, I should say. Instead, the 10th Guru said is that from now on, the Guru will be the Guru Granth Sahib. That is the holy book of Sikhism. And I thought to myself, so the new Guru is a book? I asked somebody, and this is a recent conversation I had back before I left Kansas to move here to Deep South Texas in the Rio Grande Valley. And I said, well, does that mean that in Sikhism, 1,000 years from now, 1,000,000 years from now, 1,000,000,000 years from now, the Guru will still be the Guru Granth Sahib? There will never again be another Sikh Guru? And this person who ran this particular Sikh temple said yes. That was a real disappointment to me, because what I realized at that point is that, in fact, Sikhism and Judaism have the same problem. They are both kind of caught in a static condition. There is no future, or there is no future beyond the present. That's it. Now, did that make any sense to me? No. Here's why. Because if you read the Guru Granth Sahib, the Sikh scriptures, it talks about many avatars. The word avatar is a Sanskrit word which translates as descent, or loosely as incarnation, incarnation of God. That term is used, avatar is used, and various avatars are mentioned in the Guru Granth Sahib. So I thought, well, if there were avatars in the past, like Krishna, for example, why can't there be avatars in the future? And the reality is that there simply is no Sikh answer to that. The Guru Granth Sahib does mention past avatars, but denies the possibility of avatars in the future. I saw that as an extremely difficult conundrum, one that I simply could not resolve. I tried to resolve it. I thought about it for days and days and days. Plus, another problem. The person I initially wrote about becoming a Sikh, maybe in retrospect, he was not the best person to write, but whatever. I asked him how I become a Sikh, and he told me about the 5Ks. For those of you who don't know what the 5Ks are, and I won't go through all of them, but one of them, for example, is baptism. Okay, I can deal with baptism. Another one is not cutting your hair from any part of your body, wearing combs in your hair, and a kind of turban over your head. That was a problem. As an autistic, I was already being bullied. So what was going to happen? Well, I would simply be bullied more. So that was very discouraging. Third, Sikhs who had the baptism needed to wear a dagger, a sword on their side for the protection of widows, children, and the helpless. I could just imagine myself as a bullied autistic walking through my school with a turban and a sword. Oh, and long underwear draped around my knees. Forgot about that one. What would I do in the locker room when I was changing for gym? So that became a disaster as well. I realized I could not become a Sikh. And it was very, very disappointing to me when I recognized that the same basic problem that I saw in Judaism, whether the more religious or the less religious forms of Judaism, the lack of continuity, or I should say maybe the end of continuity, were also present in Sikhism. In other words, there would be no succession of gurus in Sikhism. There is no succession of prophets in Judaism. Well, some forms of Judaism, there will be a Messiah, maybe at some point in the future, and other forms, just a messianic age, whatever the heck that means. And literally, I used to ask people, what the heck is a messianic age? Well, I didn't say what the heck, but I said, what is a messianic age? And nobody could answer my question. Why? Because they didn't know. They didn't know. Nobody knows. It's a doctrine that was accepted by liberal-minded Jews as an alternative to believing in the coming of a Messiah. Well, I wanted a Messiah. I really did. I could not imagine belonging to a religion which said that revelation had simply ended. No gurus, no prophets, nothing in the future, or maybe just a messianic age. So literally, I felt like I had lost everything. It was a very depressing part of my life. Now, in terms of the Sikhism part of that problem was the guy who answered my question. He told me about the 5Ks, which includes the baptism and the not cutting your hair and the sword and all that stuff. What he didn't tell me is that one could be a Sikh and not practice the 5Ks. Now, if he had told me that, I might have considered becoming a Sikh, but still, I would have been left with the conundrum of a book, the Guru Granth Sahib, as the guru. And to me, that was totally unacceptable. I could not imagine living a life that was totally centered around a book, where there was simply no future revelation. And that was true in Sikhism in one way, and that was true in Judaism, especially liberal Judaism, in another way. And I certainly could not be an Orthodox, a traditionalist, or a conservative Jew, because I was not willing to practice the strict guidelines of Judaism, such as the kosher laws. I was not willing to forsake my ability to drive around on the Sabbath. I remember back when I was in Kansas, I was invited to attend a service of Lubavitcher Chabad, which is one of the dynasties in Hasidic Judaism. Now, I lived in Olathe, Kansas. This Lubavitcher Chabad center was in Overland Park, Kansas, next door, but actually about 20 miles away. So I couldn't walk there. Well, I guess I could if I started a few days in advance. I don't know. Not realistic. When I got to the center, to the Lubavitcher Chabad Center, the only car parked in the parking lot was mine. Why? Because you can't drive a car if you're Orthodox or Hasidic on the Sabbath. Another conundrum. So what could I do? Now, was I really interested in becoming Lubavitcher Chabad or Hasidic in general? No. But I thought at least I could explore it. What it made me realize is that the religion I was born into had in fact turned into what is, I guess, somewhat disparagingly called by many people. I didn't coin the term, so don't blame me. Ghetto Judaism. And the term ghetto Judaism is not an insult in the way people might think it is. It is a literal description of Judaism the way it existed on the Jewish ghetto. If you were on the Jewish ghetto, it made sense to have guidelines like you can't use electronic means of traveling around, even though there were no cars back then. So I don't really even know what that means exactly. Or, in other words, it made some sense. It made some sense on the European ghetto. Does it make sense now? Of course not. The only way you can practice ghetto Judaism or rabbinical Judaism is if you live in a Jewish neighborhood. And I did not. So literally, ghetto Judaism, especially Orthodox and Hasidic Judaism, requires that you live in a Jewish neighborhood so you can walk to Jewish events whenever they are being held. And that was not possible. So Judaism was kind of a dead ender. There was no place to go in Judaism. I could literally not practice any type of Judaism that focused on the coming of a Messiah, aside from the fact that I wasn't willing to follow Jewish dietary and other laws because of the fact that I lived in a non-Jewish neighborhood. And I did not want to join Reform Reconstructionist or Jewish Renewal Judaism, because the whole idea is centered on a messianic age. And I wanted a Messiah, for what it's worth. I really wanted a Messiah. And just living for the sake of living without having any hope for the future, I mean, that may be okay for some people. It may be fine for some people. I'm not going to judge what other people want or don't want. But I can say that ghetto Judaism, which was developed on the European Jewish ghetto, can only be practiced if you live on some type of modern Jewish ghetto or Jewish neighborhood, which I did not. So what was I going to do? Give up my apartment and move into another neighborhood? Well, I could have, but I wouldn't in principle, because I felt that any religion that would require me to actually relocate in order to practice their religion is not a religion worth practicing. And so, again, that was the ultimate conundrum. I literally had no place to go, and that was very depressing. However, in spite of my, I guess you could say, my alienation from Judaism, I can still say that I support Bund, meaning I support a non-Zionist Judaism, given the fact that I was born into a Jewish family, a non-practicing one, but still a Jewish family, and given the fact that I am an anti-Zionist. And that was confirmed to me by the co-founder of this particular Bund movement. And so now I can say that although I don't practice Judaism, and I'm hesitant about whether to even call myself Jewish because of that. I know some people do that because they identify with the culture, but I don't identify with the culture. I was not raised in a culturally religious family, or as it's sometimes called, a Yiddishkeit family. Yiddishkeit translates into English as Jewishness. My family was not Yiddishkeit. We had no Jewish cultural practices in my family. That's the way my family was. We were an extremely secular family. And I lived in 2 Jewish neighborhoods in New York City growing up, and all the people around me were also non-practicing. So it simply wouldn't work. And so, but in spite of that, I can still maintain some connection. I'm not sure whether I should say to either Judaism or Yiddishkeit, one or the other, by being associated with the Bund movement. And that is something that I love. And I'm happy that at long last, I have found my place in the Jewish community, even though I don't live in a Jewish community. For the time being, this is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.